Hi, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk, and here inside this plain black box I actually have a pre-release version of the HTC Touch Diamond2, which I'm going to have a quick look at. I thought we'd do a quick tour around the handset, a quick look at the OS before I head off and do a full-blown review. I'm going to quickly unbox the Diamond2 here. Thing to bear in mind, as I say, this is pre-release, so this isn't the retail packaging. We're not sure exactly what form the retail packaging will take. It's likely to be similar, and the contents are likely to be similar, although we can't guarantee they'll be the same. So inside the box itself there is this additional sort of space and compartment. So we have a case which we've seen on the HTC Touch Diamond and the Touch Pro, like the same sort of style case with the soft fabric inside, and the phone obviously just slides in place. And also we have a screen protector which we can apply. That's actually it for, as I say, the pre-release package. We would expect to obviously see a manual and CD-ROM in that space there. We have the handset itself, which we will look at in a bit more detail in just a few moments. Also in the package we have a USB to mini USB sync and charge cable. We have a spare stylus, which is a full-size stylus, pretty much the same as the Diamond, a magnetic full-size stylus rather than telescopic. We have a wired headset, which again, pretty standard stuff. It has the extended mini USB connector on one end, has an inline microphone with a push button. There's no volume control on this particular one. And then we have the headphones on the other end, obviously. These are pretty decent. They're the same as with other HTC models, and these headphones are actually quite good. And for a wired headset, they're more than adequate. Last of all, we actually have the charger itself, which is again very similar to other HTC products. As this is pre-release, we only have the European charger, not the UK, but it is the standard USB style charger. Let's just push all those bits and pieces to one side and have a look at the handset itself. On the front we have a forward-facing VGA camera and a fairly large loudspeaker, a couple of indicating LEDs just either side of the loudspeaker. Then we have the screen, and the screen is probably one of the sort of key features, if you like, of the Diamond2. It's actually a 3.2 inch diagonal, and it is WVGA, so it's 480 by 800. So that's a lot of real estate for a screen of that size. Below that we have the zoom bar and zoom control, which I'll show you in a bit more detail in just a few moments when I actually power up. Underneath that then we have the phone keys on either side, and a Windows key and a back button, and also the end call key does double up as the home key. Looking around the device, we have up-down volume control rocker on one side, and you can see the nice silver accent around the main bezel of the screen, which is offset by the black on the back, which is quite attractive. So you have this silver effect followed by the black contrast on the bottom. Looking at the bottom itself, we have the extended mini USB sync charge cable, and obviously our headphones plug in there. Our stylus pops in at the bottom, again magnetic. The loudspeaker just on the top there, and the power button immediately above. Then we have a 5 megapixel autofocus camera on the back. There's no flash and no mirror for self-portrait, but the back is actually quite shiny, as you can see. Like many other devices at the moment, it's a sort of piano black that it immediately shows off the fingerprints. But all devices seem to be doing it at the moment. Back pops off like so, just slides up and out of the way, which reveals the battery compartment and also the micro SD card socket. Now HTC have been trying up to 32 gig micro SD cards in here, but officially it does support up to 16 gig micro SD cards, but it sounds like 32 gig is going to be also supported. Battery pops out like so, and our SIM card goes just in the space there. Battery on top. Battery itself is actually 1100 milliamp hours, so it's a little bit higher capacity than that on the original Diamond, which was around the 800 or 900 milliamp hour mark. Cover pops on back on like so, and we'll just power up. And just while we're waiting for that to start up, again, I must mention that this is a pre-release product. So although the hardware is final hardware, the operating system and the software that you're going to see in just a moment isn't final, so it isn't perhaps as fluid as the final version will be. There are a couple of little glitchy bits in there that are known about and will be solved in the final version. So, obvious comparison to make then with the Diamond. As we can see, the larger screen on the Diamond 2 has been accommodated by basically removing the D-pad below and just sticking with a fairly simple button arrangement underneath that. But you might have noticed how quickly the phone booted just there, and I'm already into the OS. It's just obviously telling me that there's no SIM card installed, but I'm straight into TouchFlow 3D. I'm not waiting for it to load. It pretty much is there very quickly, seconds rather than minutes, as with other products. So we're a little bit thicker, a little bit fatter if you like, than the Diamond, and just that little bit longer from top to bottom. Not a great deal in it, and in terms of sort of width, we're almost identical. There really isn't an awful lot to choose between the two. And in terms of weight, okay, the Diamond 2 is a little heavier, but not a great deal. Quick rundown of the spec. We've got a 528 MHz processor, 512 meg of ROM and 288 meg of RAM, so it should ramp along quite quickly. Gone is the 4 gig of storage, and now we obviously have the micro SD card slot, which is cool. 117 grams, again, as I say, not a lot there. HSDPA, Edge, Wi-Fi, GPRS, everything's supported there as you'd expect. So we've actually got a quad band for GSM, so voice will work pretty much everywhere around the world, and then dual band for the HSDPA. TouchFlow 3D, this is obviously a slightly newer implementation of that. Built-in GPS, again as you'd expect, Bluetooth 2, and as I say, Wi-Fi. We also have an FM radio again, which is quite nice. Now if I just kill the lights very quickly, so that we can actually have a better view of the OS, and I'll quickly run you through a couple of things on the OS. Obviously we start off in the home screen view, which flicks around with the time. We can actually minimize that. If we had any appointments below, they would be shown down here, and obviously the time is reduced in size, very much the same as the Diamond in that respect. Where we have a fairly significant change is in the start menu. So if I tap the start button, gone is the traditional Windows Mobile start bar. We now have programs listed. These are the most common and favourite programs, if you like, which you can add to, and we can add more in here, which is again very similar to the tab that we have on the Diamond and Touch HD and so on, which has programs, but now it's actually launched as part of the start bar, and also pressing the start button just on the bottom here would also launch that, and pressing it again gets rid of it. You'll notice that the lights, there are lights in the buttons below, which is a nice addition. Unfortunately the bar below the Touch HD didn't light up, which was a bit of a shame, but yeah, obviously this does. And to get into all programs, we press all programs, and we have this list, which hopefully is everything installed on the device. So if we go back, and then we can close that. Obviously, as I say, you can customize what you see on this start screen. Then we have people. Now this is like a Rolodex style. I've added one person in here at the moment, and here's another change that we're going to show you. So this is a favourite person, if you like. Obviously I've just set up an example person. Below that is the way in which we can interact with this person. So as we only have a mobile number for this person, we can make a phone call, or we can send that person a text message. If we had his email address and possibly his home address, his email address would then reveal a button there that we would press, and it would launch the email application. And likewise, if we had a home address for him, we could also tap that, and it would actually open that person's location, or home location, work location, whichever it might be, in Google Maps. So that's quite nice. But also we can interact in a different way with this person. So actually we tap the person, tap their image, we'll actually see the contact details for this sample person, and then we have the ability to edit contact information and see more contact information. Then we have a series of tabs along the bottom, very similar to TouchFlow. So if we tap SMS or text messages, we would actually see, had we have interacted with this person via text, we would see all the text messages to and from this person listed here, filtering out all the other text messages that we don't want to see. Then we can see the emails. Again, if I had email to or from this person, they would be listed here too. And finally, call history. Again, this would filter out all the calls that were just to and from this person, removing all the others. So that's a nice feature. That's a nice way to sort of interact with just that one person, like a personal, people-centric way of seeing your contacts and so on. So back out of there. We have text messages. This is very similar to the threaded SMS that we see on the Diamond. Not a great deal of change here. Same with email. One thing that is nice and is sort of somewhat different is that we can actually go into a sample email, and using the zoom bar just below the screen, we can actually zoom the text for that email, and we can make it larger, and we could do the opposite and scroll across the bottom, make it smaller. And that's just by sliding our finger across the zoom bar backwards and forwards at the bottom. So that's like a hardware, if you like, zoom bar, which is touch sensitive area below the screen, which is quite cool. Now that works in a number of other places, including your web browser and also image browsing. We then have internet, so we have Opera built in and YouTube application. We also have push websites or push web pages, which is it's somewhat more difficult to explain possibly. We actually can set up a title and a home page and a frequency with which the page will be retrieved. Now it will only retrieve that one page. It won't tunnel down further into the site or follow any links, but it will retrieve that one page, which does mean that anytime I want to go and view that page, even if I don't have any Wi-Fi connectivity or any connection whatsoever, I can be on Tube without any signal, I can still view that web page. Now if I want to see any links on that page, I also will have to go online, but I can see a summary, so possibly a news site that has all the summaries on the main page might be useful here. We then have a calendar, which is a much nicer implementation of a calendar. We can zoom through the months and we can see all the days at a glance. Anything that we've got any activity on is actually shown with a little triangle in the corner, and also we can change this view. We also have stock quotes. If should you want to do that, you can obviously see your stock quotes going probably down at the moment. Then we have photos and videos. So this drives our 5 megapixel camera. So if we actually just put something in place, you can see not performing fantastically in this low light, but you know what, we don't expect to see an awful lot in very, very low lighting conditions here, because obviously I've dimmed the lights so that you can see the display. One nice feature is that we can tap the screen and that tells us where we want to actually make our focus point. So we want to make that our focus point, and then we actually use the camera by pushing the button, and that will take a picture. Obviously I don't want to keep that picture, but you do get the idea. If we just back up out of there, we can see pictures that we've taken earlier, which is a very interesting picture that I took on the train. Again, the zoom bar along the bottom does work, and I can zoom in and out, and I can step back out of there, and I can go into music. Music is very similar to the Touch HD and the original HTC Touch Diamond. Nothing really to report change-wise there. We have weather, again, very similar to the original Touch applications. Then we have our settings. Now settings are the last tab. There's a few things in here that are quite cool. Sync data is obviously, if we're using Exchange, it will sync everything up. We can change our sound settings, our ringtones and everything else, which is quite a nice, rich interface there, which is a lot easier than digging through the Windows mobile menus. And then we can change our wallpaper, and we can change our communication. So here's our comm manager. Again, very similar to the Diamond and HD and so on, with these little switches down the side where we can turn all the different Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, direct push and data connections on and off. Come out of there. One nice feature, another nice feature, is that we can customize the tabs along the bottom. So all these tabs or buttons along the bottom of the home screen can be customized. So if we go into customize tabs, Now I might decide that I actually don't want any stock quotes because I don't own any stock. And photos and videos are actually quite important to me. I do take a lot of photos, and might want to show off some more of my photos and videos, so I can actually move them further up the order. Now I might decide that actually photos and videos are not quite as important as email, but that are more important than my internet use. So I can move that up, I can click done. And it will relaunch TouchFlow. And it will relaunch it with my change. So now I can see that I've got my email, and then I've got my camera and images there. And it's reorganised all of my tabs. I no longer have the stock quotes, and I just have settings. Go back into settings, and then I can change my contact card, and I can change my mail setup. So as I say, it's really nice that there is this customise tab, so I can customise all those tabs along the bottom, which is nice because it required a third-party application to do that on the Touch Diamond, so that's pretty cool. One thing that you won't be able to tell, obviously, as I'm touching the screen, is when I'm touching things like keyboard and actually tapping the buttons along the bottom, there is actually a haptic feedback, which it doesn't only last for a fraction of a second, but it's quite good. And then we have the keyboard, which is the full QWERTY, which has changed a little bit from the Diamond. It is a little better. We have the XT9, and then we have a standard ABC QWERTY keyboard. And then when we actually touch a letter, it is shown here above where I'm pressing, so that it's not, my finger's not in the way of where I'm pressing, so I can see that quite clearly I've touched the letter G, D, and so on. So you get the idea there. But also, if I actually rotate the screen, you'll see that the screen is automatically flipped. I don't need a third-party application to do that and support that. And then I can actually use a landscape QWERTY keyboard, again, which is very nice. And the sensitivity is actually really good. It does only require a fairly light touch with the finger, and it does work fairly accurately. I've been trying this earlier on today, and I've set it up, and you can actually get a fairly decent type rate with that arrangement of the keyboard, so that's pretty good. And then obviously it does rotate back. Let's obviously come out of there, and we don't want to send that message. Last of all, let's just pop into the dialer, and then we can see lists of all the people that I've got in here, and obviously we can start dialing numbers and so on. And again, that's very sensitive. Touch works very well, and obviously the dialer works very well. And then obviously we can choose also to make a standard voice call or a video call, and obviously we can go into contacts, and we can turn the dialer on and off, and we can say search our company directory and so on. I'm not going to go too much further actually into the OS or any more sort of detail here. As I say, this is pre-release, so there are a few things that are going to change within this particular ROM build, but over the next hopefully a few days we should actually have a full retail version of the Diamond 2 that we can show you, and that will, you know, obviously have the full retail release version of the ROM, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail, and we'll unbox the full product. So join us again on tracyandmatt.co.uk. Over the next couple of weeks we're going to have more details of the Diamond 2, some photographs, some comparisons, and obviously the full written review. So we hope you'll enjoy the review on tracyandmatt.co.uk.